Well, I'm sorry, I've forgotten everything that I was going to say. All right. If you listen to the several comments I made in relation to the idea of a radical self-awareness that you'd find in, the more mystical uh, thinkers and sages, especially like a Krishnamurti, who speaks of a radical sense of freedom that coincides with a Zen sense of freedom, where there is no action except the observation. So anyway, what I get at is a question for Dr. Peterson. I haven't heard him speak of this yet because I haven't heard everything he's done by any stretch. But I would like to know what he considers to be the most fundamental aspect that of the human condition that we can employ that would improve us to the point where we're not a bunch of friggin' monsters to each other. And I fully concur with his point of view of all that. So self-knowledge obviously seems to be his answer, and it's Socratic self-knowledge. It's also, as I pointed out, strongly existential, which means it's personal and it's gut level. It's really gut level. And I would strongly suspect that he would concur with my point of view of the body consciousness as being at the foundation of this whole thing. So the reason that I consider this important is because as an educator, somebody who taught for 44 years from grade school to graduate school, a person who went as high as getting a PhD in rather esoteric things. And I wonder about his ultimate way. What is the ultimate way? I know that he tries to bring people to a practical awareness of their relationship to the world. I hear that, and I think it's very effective. And it's commendable. But at the foundation of that, what is it? Is it a thought? Is it just a behavior? We know that many behaviorists will say that the mind follows the behavior. And if you look closely at it, very often that can be true. That we are just machines who are just kind of aware of ourselves a little bit. Interesting. Anyway, I would really like to know his response as to how he sees the foundation of this. If he had, in other words, I know he deals with people at a different level, but if he had, let's say, a poor lunatic like myself who goes into him and asks for help and is willing to even pay him for his time, and he comes to understand the fundamental problem, and that is just that this person is acutely aware of the very world that Jordan Peterson actually describes, a world of suffering and a world of monsters who hide themselves from people inside their self-idealizations. And so there's this person who comes to him and says, I'm really going completely bonkers about all this. I'm going around the bend because this world is so bad. I see it more and more acutely bad. I don't want to wind up like Nietzsche the last 12 years of his life from 1888 to 1900, where he couldn't even allow anybody to speak to him while he was eating. He was so sensitive to the world. I don't want to wind up like that. But it's a possibility that people could. There are lots of ways to go crazy. There are lots of ways to be in hell. And they will all come down to a fundamental suffering. It's a fundamental sensate experience. Because for some of us, conflict, personal conflict, is just as sickening as taking body blows by a professional fighter. And how do I know that? Because I've experienced both. And I can tell you, when I used to pound out with Benny Delgado, my old friend who had 77 pro fights, it was less painful than some bad relationships. We liked each other. So, you know, here's this poor crazy man. He's about to go around the bend. What do you do with him, Dr. Peterson? So there's a question I would ask him.